some Q&A, but before doing that, let me just tell you how in the world did I wind up in this situation? Because it wasn't what I was planning on doing. You know, I had a very arduous medical career. It was a spectacular medical career. If somebody had sat me down in front of a computer and said, type out the career that you want to have, I could not have come up with a better scenario. It was all the good Lord. He just orchestrated an amazing career for me. And, you know, almost 15,000 surgeries. And Candy and I were really planning on relaxing. You know, I decided exactly when I was going to retire, because somebody told me that neurosurgeons die early, and I didn't believe it, so I wrote down names of the last 10 neurosurgeons I knew who died, and I calculated the average age of death, and it was 61. Wow. So I said, I'm going to retire when I turn 61 if I'm still alive. Wow. I was still alive, so I retired.
And I thought I had a husband now. Go on.
But then along came the prayer breakfast, and
that was you had me at that. Couldn't be quiet.
When I got the call about that, I said, Lord, what are you up to? I knew he was up to something because, you know, I had spoken at the prayer breakfast in 1997, and I wasn't aware that anyone ever did it twice. Then I found out that one person has done it twice, and that is Billy Graham. Then I really knew he was up to something. And, but, you know, I really didn't know what I was going to say at that prayer breakfast. And I kept writing down stuff, and I said, nah, that's not it. And finally, the night before the prayer breakfast, I just went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, it was so clear what I was supposed to say. And obviously, it resonated strongly. And, you know, what has happened in our nation is that the people have sort of been left behind. And a country that was supposed to be about the people has become about the government. But of course, that's exactly what Thomas Jefferson said would happen. He said the people would stop being vigilant, and the government would just expand and would take over our lives. And just before we turned into another form of government, he said the people would awaken, and they would rise up and they would reclaim the government. I'm hopeful that this is that time right now, because it has to be that time. If it isn't, I don't think the time will come. Because if we get another progressive president in 2016, and they get 2 or 3 Supreme Court picks,
God help us.
Yeah, it's gone. The United States is gone, as we know. A lot of people thought it was gone already. I ran into so many elderly people, particularly, who told me that they were just waiting to die. They had given up on America. Although they did tell me that now they're starting to be revived a little bit. Which is good, because one of the things that has been very encouraging to me and Candy as we travel all over the country, and we're in about 5 or 6 states a week, the reaction of the people is just amazing. But what's really surprising is a lot of the people who are normally on the political scene are so surprised with the people who come, because they're not people that normally are involved in politics. They're people who've been sitting out and are coming back into the process. And those are the people that we really need to be thinking about. The traditional mainstream pundits, politicians, pollsters, they're just dealing with people who voted before, who are likely voters. They're not dealing with all of those other people. They have no idea what's going on. But God knows what's going on. And I think that there are enough God-fearing people in this country that he's going to save us. He's not going to let us go down that pathway. And unfortunately, the pathway that we've been going down is not just a Democrat pathway. The Republicans have been doing it too. They've all been involved, basically in selling out the interest of the people for their own political benefit. And what we truly need are people who are interested in the welfare of their constituents and of the people, and couldn't care less about re-election. And certainly, if God sees fit to put me into the presidency, I would be very happy to only serve one term, particularly if we can get things turned around. And I could actually retire. Candy, I can have fun. that would be good. But, I've just told to the good Lord, I said, this is an extremely unlikely scenario for someone who's not part of the political establishment to even be thinking about, running for president of the United States. It's just so far out of the norm. And yet, it's still going. It's still happening. And I just told the Lord, as long as you keep opening the doors, I'll keep going through. If you close the doors, I'll sit down. And the doors continue to open. Since March, we've had 100,000 new donors.
Wow.
Nobody else can even come close to that. But it's coming from among the people. I have intentionally not been running around like the other candidates seeking out billionaires, because I'm not for sale. Interestingly enough, some of them are starting to come to us now, but they are going to find out that, that we'll accept their money, but we're not going to kowtow to their influence. Because, it's really about the people. And it's about the will of people. We have a representative type government, which means that the government works for the people. The people don't work for the government. And somehow that has been forgotten. And, the first thing that I would do is call a joint session of Congress and emphasize that we work for the people. Every single one of us works for the people. And that I would do what Barack Obama said he was going to do. He said he was going to be very transparent. He said that things would be televised, that people would know what was going on. And it's the least transparent person we've ever had.
Absolutely.
But if, in fact, people in the government work for the people, then they need to be responsible for the people. The people need to be able to see what they're doing. And I think it would make a big difference if people could see who the obstructionists are, and who are the people who are offering reasonable ideals, who are the people who are being reasonable and trying to get things done, and who are the people who are sticks in the mud. I think it would make a huge difference if we could actually see what was going on. So, logic, common sense, fairness, those are the kinds of things that people should be able to expect. That shouldn't be the exception. It should be the rule. We're all surprised, pleasantly, when we see somebody who's decent and who's honest. And we don't see a whole lot of them, quite frankly, in Washington, D.C., that's for sure. Because most of the people there are politicians. And politicians do what is politically expedient, as opposed to what's right. And one of the things that I've sworn is that I will never become a politician. Because what is the point of getting elected under false pretenses? You're not going to be happy, and the people aren't going to be happy. So really, what is the point in doing that anyway? It doesn't make any sense to me. You have to be who you are. You have to tell the truth. If that's something that resonates with the people, then you're a good representative for them. And if it doesn't resonate with them, then they won't vote for you, and that's fine. If you're honest, that's the way it should work. If you're a politician, it doesn't seem to work that way. You just think, oh, well, what do they want me to say? Okay, well, that's what I'll say. It doesn't matter what I do as long as I get voted in. And I feel sorry for people who operate under those circumstances, but there's a lot of people who do. And it's one of the reasons that Candy and I wrote the little booklet called One Vote. And it's a way for people, it's only about 75 or 80 pages long, people to really become informed voters. How you find out who your representatives are, how they voted, not how they said they voted, but how they actually voted, where they fit on the political ideological spectrum, where you fit on the political ideological spectrum, whether there's congruence there, and just a whole host of things that in basically 2 or 3 hours anybody can become an extremely informed voter. And if we had a nation full of informed voters, we wouldn't be having these kind of problems that we're having now. But most people that go into a voting booth, they're just looking for a D or an R or a name that looks familiar. The name could be Satan. They say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that one.
It's sad.
And that's the problem. And that's how we got into the situation that we're in right now. We can come out of it. So with that, let me open it up for...
Well, don't forget about the press too, right? Did you talk about that yet? Or did I?
Go ahead.
The press, well, the press is the only business that's protected by our Constitution because it's supposed to hold people accountable. But we have an unethical press. How are people supposed to become informed? And that's one of the reasons why for the last year and a half, he or you either both have been in 4 or 5 states, sometimes 6 states a week. Whenever he'd get a request to speak, he would do it, and he would talk about these things, these issues that are really pressing our country in the direction that our founding fathers want us to be. So anyway, yeah, with that, he's ready for questions.